Good morning. Good morning. It's Friday. I am so excited. It's Friday. We made it through a whole other week. And I am sitting in for the one and only John Moran. And I've got Mark Simpson and Julie Morris to my side. I'm so honored to be next to you guys. And before we get started, I just wanted to give you both the opportunity to introduce yourself to everybody watching so that they get to know you guys a little bit better. So, Mark, why don't you get started since you're right over there?
Oh my gosh. All right. Well, I am Mark Simpson, not Bart or OJ, as a kid I can say that. But I am a broker, a realtor. I am a business coach, primarily in the field of real estate. Prior to this whole game of real estate, I spent 22 years in private practice as a family therapist, and also developed and franchised Marathon Makeover, where we turned 4,000 couch potatoes over that into marathoners. So had a lot of fun with that. It brought me into real estate, and that's who I do. So every day I get to lead a team, coach a bunch of agents, sell houses, and hang out with you guys.
Love it. Julie, tell us a little about yourself.
So I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, and John and I have been friends since college days. We met in Grand Forks, North Dakota, where he is now at his high school reunion. Anyway, we actually met in college, not high school. So I have been a realtor since 1996 and became a broker in 2004, started my own real estate company at that point, ended up selling it. Now I lead a team and manage an office in Scottsdale, just under 900 agents in my office. So I've been doing this since 1996 and have been coached since 1999. So I'm a big fan of learning from others.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
I'm a big fan of learning from you guys. You guys pour into me. I'm the newbie out of everyone. I've been licensed for a little over a year and a half. Started with KW, still with KW. And I started off in coaching and joined a team, went full-time in September of last year. And I'm really excited to start this journey and see where it takes me. So thank you guys. And thank you, John, if you're watching, for always pouring into me and allowing this opportunity. So before we get started, or as we get started, John posted this morning, his topic is, have a clear understanding of what's next when you're lead genning, when you're having meetings and appointments and consultations, know what's next. And that just requires asking questions and listening and taking notes. Never leave anything for assumption. Both parties should have a clear understanding of what is the next step. And so wanted to get your thoughts and ideas on what's next. How do you guys, when you are having your appointments or you're talking with clients, enter that conversation of what's next? And I think we all kind of do a little bit differently. Would love to hear what you guys think.
Yeah, Julie, ladies first.
So one of the things is when I first started in real estate, I had so little confidence and so much fear, but I had to make it. I was on a high wire with no net, like they say. And so I naturally, my goal, and because I'm a dinosaur, I did not have a cell phone. We did not have texting. We did have email, but that was even kind of new. Not everybody had it. I had to get the appointment. And so I had to know when we were meeting next and what, I had to get the appointment. I didn't necessarily know why or what. I just knew I needed the next appointment with everybody. So my goal in my first year was always to get the next appointment. And in my first year in real estate, I closed 48 transactions. Nice. I didn't recognize that was such an important understanding, is to get the next appointment. So, figure out a way to, whether it's a script or a what's the next step, whatever the word is, whatever the goal is, to get the next appointment.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so huge, Julie, because oftentimes I always talk, we lead generate and lead follow up to go on appointments. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times agents miss the fact that it's to go on appointments and they don't schedule that. And the power of getting focused on the next appointment is what leads to the deals. Because without that appointment, you're just talking, you're just chatting. And one of the things that I always look to, and in my own work, in my work with agents, is we are project managers, and we exist to help people achieve their goals. And it is a sequential process. And so we need to say, what's the next step? And after every conversation, we're always standing at a fork in the road. And we've got to ask ourselves, am I going to go forward with this client? If the answer is yes, we need to schedule that next step. Right. And we need to write it down. We need to have a reminder to follow through, because it is that sequential process that gets us to the finish line, project completed. And if we're not going to follow up, go ahead and delete them. But we shouldn't delete anybody. We should be asking what's next. So I think that's really a step. And John even said he likes to finish every conversation with, all right, what's the next step you want to take?
That's right. That's right. I know for me, when I'm legioning, one of the biggest things that I hear is, oh, I got to think about it. Let me think about it. Let me talk to my wife. Let me talk to my husband. Let me get back to you in a few days. That's the biggest pushback. But I love what he mentioned today is taking lead and initiating that follow-up. And I think that's a huge next step to take, is, asking that question, well, what didn't I answer for you? What did I leave unclear? How can I push forward and move the ball forward to set the appointment with you? What do you guys do when you are practicing that and receiving that pushback?
So one of the things I think is a very important mindset is to, instead of seeing yourself as a salesperson, is recognizing, I'm not selling anyone anything. I'm not trying to push a boulder up a hill. I'm not trying to get you to do something. I am listening for needs. And when someone says, I'm thinking about buying, I'm thinking about selling, whether it's today or in 2, 3, 4, 6 years, the concept is that I'm here to serve. So if you put yourself in the place of, I'm here to serve and I'm trying to get you closer to your goal, if you have that mindset, it's easier to listen. We talk about starting every phone call out with having a question, having a goal, having a goal for the call. And it might not be get an appointment, but, that's something we talk about, is getting the appointment. And it was for me my first year. It still is a lot, but it is figuring out what is their next goal. What do they need to have happen to get over the next hurdle in order for them to reach their goal? It might be qualifying. It might be meeting a lender. It might be figuring out what their home is worth. What do they need to do to get ready to sell? There's a lot of steps along the way. So it's figuring out what they need, what obstacle they have. And I wanted to comment, Destiny, one of the things I do when I want to get somebody off my back, I might absolutely know the answer to the question, but I don't want to give the answer, whether it's, yes, I want to work with you. No, I don't want to work with you. Yes, I want to move forward. Yes, I want to sell. No, I don't. I will say, and this is a great thing for married people or anyone with a significant other, let me talk to my husband. I might know for certain my husband doesn't care at all, and he's going to go with whatever I say, but it's a good way to get salespeople off my back. So when you hear, let me talk to my significant other, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband, my wife, just say, great, that's wonderful. If I don't hear back, when would be a good time for me to get back in touch with you? Right. And they might give you a push off answer. Destiny, what do you hear most when they don't want to give you a solid answer?
It's no, thank you. No, you don't need to call me back. I'll call you back, or I'll reach out to you. I have your number. I have your information.
I don't want to waste your time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, my answer to that is, well, I want to make sure that I don't drop the ball. So if I don't hear from you by X, I will call you by Y. Then they're expecting the call. And if they don't want to hear back from you, they're going to say, don't call me again ever. Right. And I've always had the mindset of, until they buy or die, I'm going to keep calling.
I love that.
Our comments are not showing up on our screen, but they are showing up on Facebook. And I see that Maria says, I've been cold calling all this week from Vulcan 7, and it's discouraging how much rejection I get. No appointments after 200 calls.
Ouch.
So that hurts. And
Mhm.
Destiny, you do about 2 hours a day, 10
Mhm.
hours a week.
Mhm.
How do you reframe that rejection to, is it rejection or is it, I just haven't found the ready?
I tell myself that rejection is just one step closer to my yes. You know, I've gone hours on the dialer, and that very last phone call before I call it quits for the day is the one that says, yes, I am interested. And so I keep pushing until I know I've set my goal, whether it's an amount of time or amount of phone calls that I have to make. And there are days, weeks sometimes, that I will go without an appointment, but that's practice for me. That's live role play and script practice for me. That's how I look at it. So I push through because I know that I'll get that yes. It's going to come.
Well, and I know you told me you've been in a dry spell on the dialer. It's just, and then you set 2 appointments this week.
Yep, just yesterday. I tried a new area, and that may be something to also look into. I said, let me cast my net in a different pond today. And I tried a whole different area that I've never dealt with before and set 2 appointments. Yep. So I think sometimes taking a break from the people that you are calling and trying someplace different is refreshing. But I always look at it as that yes is coming. I just got to get to it.
So I would ask a question. Mark, who did you say? You said it was Maria who asked the question?
Maria, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Towards yourself. One of the things that, the service that we use is we record our calls. And I would suggest listening to yourself. And if you don't have a recording, service, just use your phone and record yourself and listen to yourself, and then put yourself in the shoes of the person getting the message and say, am I offering something? You just always come at it with a servant heart. I'm not selling something. I'm trying to get someone closer to their goal. I'm serving. I'm the best choice for them because I really care about helping them reach their goal. And are you giving that impression? Is that how you're coming across? Is it authentic? Are you offering something? And are you asking a question at the end that is a call to action, something that will get them to call you back? If you want more information about this, or, I'm going to preview this home this afternoon. You said you were interested in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in McCormick Ranch for less than, $700. There's one right now on the market for $649, and it's been remodeled. And describe it, but don't give the address. I'm going to go preview this home this afternoon. I'd love to meet you there. I'm going no matter what. Give them some reason to want to call you back, even if it's the same thing for everybody. If you're dialing in a farm, listen to yourself and ask yourself the question, am I coming across as having something that they want?
Yeah. And that comes from these experiences of learning what people want and asking the questions. We're talking about that follow-up, that next step. And I was talking to a group of new agents yesterday, and we were talking about the importance of asking questions. And somebody said, well, I would buy if I find a good deal. And my follow-up question was, well, what's their good deal?
Yeah. What is that? Can you define that? Because it's different for everyone.
That's it. And she said, well, I don't know. And I said, all right, so understand something. There's a phrase that is, the map is not the territory. In other words, our words are maps. The map is not the reality. Just as if we look at a map right now, if I looked at a map of Scottsdale, wouldn't mean I'm there. It's just the map of the territory. And so when people say it's a good deal, I'm looking for a good deal, that's the map. We got to dig into the territory and say, describe for me a good deal. What does that look like? Walk in the land that they're trying to explain. And once you're on to something when they go, you have just communicated what I'm looking for, what my win is. And that's our job. And then say, what's the next step you'd like to take?
And with buyers, sellers, primary is, what's my home worth and what's it going to sell for and how many days is it going to take? I mean, there's very basic questions. And then when you get into the actual property, that's when it gets specific. But with buyers, if they're wanting to buy, we all know I always, to not offend people, I'll say, are you planning to pay cash or are you planning to finance the property?
Right.
And I don't know the percentage, let's say 90%, depending on a certain price range, they're probably going to be financing, but it's a compliment. And this is a subconscious compliment to look at someone who's, whatever age they are and say, are you planning to pay cash? Some people will actually laugh. And what that does is it pulls down a barrier. Are you planning to pay cash? And then the next thing is now you've gotten them over. I don't like the question. Have you met with a lender? Have you talked to a lender?
Right.
So the better one is, are you planning to pay cash? Are you planning to pay cash? And I'm not right now, because we're trying to just get people to the point of understanding that you want to get an appointment. You want to set, what's the next step? Memorizing the scripts, because I think memorizing scripts is amazing and great. It's going to go easier. But if you just get the concept down of having a goal when you make the call, what am I trying to achieve here on this call? What answer am I trying to get? And then when you're on the call, getting to the finish line with the next step, the next appointment set. That way you don't have to be lost in the call where you don't hear what they say because you're trying to figure out what you're going to say next. If you can just say, I've got these 2 goals, you'll keep getting better the more you do it. But if you're not succeeding, stop and look at what you're saying and what you're doing, and how can I fix what I'm saying? Because obviously people are not responding. Now, it might be that it's just tough and people aren't responding, but try to figure out how you can fine tune and refine what you're doing.
And I'll say my pro tip that I have learned the hard way is take notes. As you're listening, take notes. You can tell yourself all day long, I'll remember it. I'll put it in the computer later, and you won't. And so I will tell people, even if I'm on the phone, you may hear me being quiet. It's just because I'm taking notes. And I think that shows the person on the other end that you really care about what they're saying and you don't want to forget it. And that way, when you follow up with them, you can go back and reference those notes you took, but take the best notes you can. I have notes everywhere, all over the house, on sticky notes and everything. But notes are so important when you're talking about that next step and initiating that next step, whether it's showing a home or at a listing appointment or just that cold call is taking notes.
And that's a great tip. I mean, and I would say an upgrade to that tip is, whether you're using an Excel spreadsheet or a Word document, or you have a sophisticated CRM, if you can take notes within your CRM, every time you go back to that contact, your notes are there.
Right.
But even like I do it at open houses right in front of people, I'll take notes either on a computer or handwritten. It demonstrates to them that you're listening and that they matter to you. And a simple question that I ask, I'll always get to this with buyers, is besides when do you think that will be, in terms of when do they want to move? When's your goal? When do you want to be into the house? Is what are the boundaries? What are the streets? If they don't give you an area, I want to be in this school district. I want to be near this. My business is at, Cactus and Shea or whatever. You'll say, what are the streets? What are the north, south, east, west boundaries? And I will draw a box if I'm standing in front of them, and I'll draw the box and then I'll stop and look at them. What are your north, south, east, west boundaries? Draw the box and stop. And then you just, as they say, well, I don't want to go further east than the 101, and I probably want to stay west of Squaw Peak and south of, and then you just start writing. Now you have an area. And what you're trying to do is get them to share with you, because if they are thinking about buying or selling, they have an idea. They have some idea. They have a minimum of something. And now you're helping them illustrate in their own minds answering some questions they may not have already asked.
Well, I think that also helps narrow down the showing process from looking at 10 houses to just 3, and it saves time, it saves energy, because all those houses start to look the same and we're frustrated and hungry and hot. And so going through all of those super specific questions and taking those next steps makes the showing process so much smoother, in my opinion.
It does.
And I like to simply say, my job is to bring you the 3 best properties that meet your goal so that you're only looking at the very best.
Mhm.
And help them understand the value of that. If we're spending time looking at less than best, we're losing time that someone else may be looking at the very best. You want to look at the very best, don't you? Yes. Okay. That's my job, is to find the very best that match your objective.
And an important thing, and I learned this the hard way in my first year in real estate, my first couple of years, but especially the first year. If I could get an appointment and get someone in my car, I was like, woohoo! And because that's back in the olden days, we rode together. And, I'd get them in my car and I would drive around and I'd show them everything. And sometimes they were not qualified. So that's why you start out with are you planning to pay cash question?
Right.
Are you planning to cash, or are you planning to get some financing? And if they're planning to get financing, have you talked with the lender? See, now that leads up to that question, but it's not the abrupt. And then you talk about the lender that you work with and, why they're great, and say, I'd like to have my lender give you a call. It's a 10-minute phone call. That way you'll know exactly what you qualify for. There's no obligation, that kind of thing. But you don't want to take somebody out who's planning to get financing, thinks that they qualify for a $400,000 property, but they only qualify for 2.
Right.
Then you show them these $400,000 properties. Now nothing will work because everything's awful. And you've wasted your time.
Right.
So get them qualified before you show them anything.
Right. And so to wrap things up, because I know we've gone a little bit longer on this Friday, and like John says, we need to get to work. Let's end the week strong by understanding to never leave anything open for assumption. Have a clear understanding of what your next step is, whether it's receiving an offer, when you're looking at a home that you want to write an offer on, during that pre-approval process, during your initial buyers and listing consultations. Always know what's next and ask them, what's our next step? What does this look like to you? And give them a clear understanding of what you're going to do to provide that next step. And so that's how we'll end this Friday, and we're going to get to work and win the day.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great weekend.